So, you want to go mule deer hunting, huh? Well, here it is, all of the information you need to know. Now, I have been hunting mule deer for many, many years. I don't know it all, that's for sure. I learn something new every day of my life, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm about ready to give you the information you need to be successful, to hunt mule deer and take down the trophy bucks, or just to get a meat buck if that's what you want. Either way, you will be successful. Now, I ask that you pay attention, take notes, do whatever's necessary to learn what I'm about to tell you, and also obey the law, know the laws of your state, country, or province. It's very important. Thank you very much for listening, and here we go. I hope you enjoy. Hello, this is Kim Michaels. How you doing? You know, back in 1991, I done a heck of a lot of deer hunting. Obviously, only one deer per year in the state of Colorado, but I took out a lot of friends deer hunting and learned so much about deer hunting over the years. And I've taken some mighty large bucks, and I've helped other people take some really, really large mule deer. Guaranteed mule deer, the secrets and strategy. Now, this is taken from my book, published in 1991. The title of it is Guaranteed Mule Deer, the Secrets and Strategy. Everyone has an idea of what a trophy is to them, and that's what you need to go by. Don't worry about people poking fun of you. As long as you're out there for the hunt, enjoying the hunt, and obviously, if you have a choice of deer, you're going to shoot the biggest one, aren't you? If you got a buck tag. I always advise everybody, always obey all the laws, and it's up to you to know what the laws are in your state, country, or province. It's up to you, because if you make a mistake, who's going to pay for it? You are, not anyone else. So know what the laws are and abide by them. That goes without saying. Now, as with everything, scout out your area ahead of time. You have to know what's going on. You have to know where the deer are, where the sign is, where the watering holes are, where they bed down, where they feed in the morning, in the evening, etc. You have to know these things. So you have to use common sense. Now, when it comes to bullet selection, things of this nature, anything that will down a white-tailed deer will down a mule deer. It's simple as that. 270, 30-06, 243, 7mm Remington Magnum, 338 Magnum, 300 Winchester Magnum. We're getting into some pretty big overkills. Shot placement is so important. Heart and lung area is where you want to put the bullet. Usually about 150 to 165 grain. And that will take down the deer. I can guarantee you that. Now, when we talk about mule deer, just what is a mule deer? Mule deer have somewhat heavy bodies and very strong legs. Mule deer can weigh up to 400 pounds or more. Yeah, I know, I've seen them. I've seen mule deer, I'm telling you what, they look like elk. They are huge, I'm telling you. The average weight is around 170 to 200 pounds for a 3-year-old buck. The deer have large mule-like ears, hence the name mule deer. The antlers are very tree-like in appearance, with tines that are forked or Y-shaped. The color of mule deer will vary slightly with the seasons. The summer coat is reddish in appearance. The winter coat is brownish gray. The belly, throat patch, and rump patch are white. The tail is either black tipped or black on top. The overall body length is 6 1/2 feet. Could be a little bit longer, but not really. Height at the shoulder is around 3 1/2 feet. The antler spread on the trophy class bucks run from 30 to over 40 inches. That's a big deer. And if you're watching the video that this audio is connected to, you're looking at some real trophies right there. The mule deer really has no markedly fixed home territory. The deer can be found at timberline elevation, open forest, brushy areas, rocky uplands, and even in desert areas. Range from Alaska to Hudson Bay and south to Mexico throughout all western states. Now, let's get into a few important details here. The general habits of all mule deer include the following. High activity in the early morning from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. Now, obviously, you can't hunt at night. That's illegal as far as I know every place. But that's the high activity time. Now, when you're out searching, you're looking at your area, you're scouting it out ahead of time, you have to know where the deer are. Now, you don't chase them because you'll chase them out of the area. You don't disturb them because you don't want to break any laws, and you want to make sure they're going to be there when it's time for you to go hunting during legal times. Now, high activity in the evenings and on moonlit nights. The most productive time is 30 minutes before dark. Many large bucks wait until it is barely possible to see before they stand up and show themselves. Henceforth, you must be in position before darkness to score on the trophy. And yes, this will vary with location. Mule deer summer in the mountains and winter in the valleys or lowlands. Hot weather hunting of any kind, head for the cooler areas. The deer are there. Remember that hunter activity and hunter pressure will change many situations while on the hunt. Be prepared. You've heard that before. The general habits listed above apply to the average muley. Now, mule deer that have been disturbed, conditioned, chased, shot at, pestered by man or dog will not be your average deer. The activity time frame will change. Now, you have to know your area. Remember that mule deer, if disturbed or harassed in a heavy manner, will migrate out of the area entirely. The big bucks are the first to leave. So keep that in mind if you're out messing around in the woods, and if you're trying to get ready to go hunting, you got to make sure you don't disturb them. Now, let's talk a little bit about trophy estimation of mule deer. As a general guide for the serious sports person, the following will provide all you need to know to determine if the mule deer you see in the field is a trophy quality buck. A mule deer is trophy size if the antlers are at least 1/2 the animal's height from the withers to the ground, or if either antler overhangs the body by at least 1/2 of the body width. Still, other considerations are the circumference of the antlers. Many hunters look for large diameter. Other hunters look for the widest spread or width. Some hunters want a combination of everything. Well, I do. I kind of want a combination of everything. Large antlers, massive antlers, large width, very tall. I'm a happy guy. All of this simply boils down to the matter of personal choice. So whatever it is you want, I guess you can find it out there if you look hard enough. A trophy deer is in the eyes of the hunter. It could be your very first deer, regardless of size. It is simply what you make of it as an individual. So, it's up to you. If you're happy, well, that's your trophy. Be happy. A lot of hard work and good times in the field during the hunt will make any successful hunter a trophy to remember. So you see, you really don't have to kill something to be happy. Although I tell you what, if I go out and I go pay an outfitter $4,000 or $5,000 more to go hunting, I darn well better get a trophy buck and bring it on home. So hard hunting and getting your money's worth is always right on. But you're out there to enjoy Mother Nature and everything else. And that meat tastes mighty good in the winter, I can guarantee you that. Now, finding mule deer. Remember I said something about getting to know your prey, getting to know the animal, about scouting out the area. The most abundant states with good mule deer populations are any state that has the proper habitat where mule deer live. As an example, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, Texas, and Alaska. Good populations in Canada. Mule deer, that's for sure. Mule deer can be found in the lowlands, mountains, valleys, orchards, strips of public land separating highways, roads, and of course on private property. Yeah, I know, all the big bucks are on private property, right? I guarantee you that. Your best bet would be to look for good mule deer habitat. Plenty of food, water, and shelter. One thing to keep in mind is look where man is not. However, a lot of big bucks can be found real close to homes, patches of grassland, wooded lots, and of course on farms and ranches. Simply put, mule deer are wherever you find them, as with any other game species. A good scouting trick to locate nice herds of mule deer and general deer populations is to take an early morning or evening ride. Morning hours are most productive between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. I mentioned that earlier. Yes, it's a bit early in the morning. You will be surprised as to where you see deer in areas that you never seen or even suspected of having deer. I have counted over 200 deer within 45 minutes drive of my home. Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe. I understand that. All of the deer were on legal hunting ground, and I counted over 50 bucks. So this is true. So you have to get out and look. The numbers I'm talking about, obviously, probably not going to be the same in your area, but you have to get out and look first, don't you? You have to do your homework. That's so important. Most areas are a lot more productive than what you think. You just have to get out and look, and I can't stress that high enough. That's so important. Get up and head out to your chosen scouting area around 4 a.m. When you reach the general vicinity, drive around 15 to 20 miles per hour. You know, legal speed limit, maybe a little bit slower. Just depends. Much faster, and it becomes dangerous to look for deer and drive at the same time. Hey, trust me on this here. If you drive much faster, you better keep your eyes on the road. Now, again, you're just out scouting. You're not going to be hunting because you can't hunt from a vehicle unless you have special permission. Now, once you find a good herd, you can scout the area later in the day and learn the main trails and general lay of the area. Also, you can spend the required time to know watering holes, feeding areas, bedding spots, and tree stand locations, or other ambush spots or whatever suits your purpose. Many times I have spotted large 4x4 or 5x5 bucks right next to the highway. The deer were close enough to the trees to escape danger if need be. You have to look and you will see. Now, it took me a while to learn that deer don't need trees. They don't climb trees. Yeah, I know that. So all because you're looking at a real nice, pretty wooded area doesn't mean there's any deer there at all. A lot of times deer, and even obviously antelope, they're out there in the prairies. You don't know it because they're down in the valleys, in the coulees, and they're hiding down in the grass and other areas. There's deer right there. You probably drive by all the time. You don't even see them. So try to stick with the side roads and county highways. Forest Service roads, backcountry roads, valley and creek or river bottom roads will produce a lot for the eye to see. You might want to consider a 4x4 before going too far off the road. And obviously with all the new laws, rules, and regulations around, you have to know what's going on, because if you step off that designated roadway in a vehicle, you drive off there, I tell you what, you could get a heavy fine. So again, you have to know what the laws are and use common sense and good judgment. Pay close attention to small patches of land right next to and right under trees. Most mule deer will be found under the trees, lying down or feeding within 100 yards of cover. A lot of big bucks have been spotted this way. The best time in the evening is 45 to 30 minutes before dark. Don't forget about travel time to the scouting area. Most wall-hanging deer will wait until it is barely possible to see before they show themselves. This is also why they are wall hangers. Keep in mind that mule deer are migratory. Areas that have deer one day may not have them the next. For the most part, if the deer are not disturbed, they will be in the vicinity the next day. Now, there's all kinds of ways to hold deer in an area, from salt licks to salt blocks to pouring apples out and stuff like that. But in reality, things like that are probably illegal. So again, you have to get to know the laws of your state, country, and or province. So know what the laws are first and do everything legal. Now, let's get down to some mule deer secrets and strategy. The real important things that everybody wants to know. Now, 1. Mule deer bucks will band together in bachelor groups before and after the rut. Look for such groups during hunting season. 2. Mule deer travel along and use passes, saddles, canyons, draws, or gullies that are easily traversed and that have plenty of grazing and browsing vegetation. 3. Mule deer like a lot of dense cover, such as pinyon, cedar, and oak. Winter browse for mule deer consist of juniper, bitterbrush, sage, jack pine, cedar, poplar, fir, oak, cliff rose, snowbush, buckthorn, mountain mahogany, bearberry, snowberry, and serviceberry. 4. The large old bucks will stay high until the first heavy snowfall. As the weather gets colder and the snow falls, hunt at the lower elevations. Try to locate a trail leaving the high country leading to lower elevations. Find a good spot to sit and watch this trail. When the snow comes, deer will migrate down this trail. The does first and the old bucks bring up the rear. Oh yeah, the does go first. Then the old bucks, the big ones, they'll be bringing up the rear. I'll tell you what, they're smart. And that's why they're big, and that's why they're old. However, on a good game trail, be ready for anything. This includes bear. I'm a big bear hunter, I can tell you that right now. I ran into a lot of bear this way. Literally ran into them. It got scary, but we're not here to talk about bear. Keep in mind that deer will use this trail at any time. The most often used time frame is dusk and dawn. Yeah, I know, you kind of get in those legal, questionable areas of hunting, but again, you got to keep everything above board and legal and lawful. The most often used time frame is dusk and dawn. But you got to remember too, midday has produced some fine bucks for the dinner table. I know that for a fact. That meat tastes pretty good in the winter. So midday hunting is great. If you keep at it, and if you're out there all day, you get your deer. You'll get your deer. I can guarantee you that if you hunt hard. So when it comes to game trails, sit and wait. Now, let us go on to number 5. Try to sit and watch a water hole around dawn, noon, and dusk. All 3 times are the most likely ones to be used by deer. 6. If a mule deer gets startled on a trail, he will most likely stay on the trail until it reaches its destination. It will not break the trail unless it senses great danger, and even then it is reluctant to do so. So, let me repeat this. If a mule deer gets started on a trail, it will most likely stay on the trail until it reaches its destination. That's more or less true, but sometimes if they get spooked or startled, like I was starting to say last time, it will leave the trail. But if it doesn't, it will not break the trail. It'll usually stay there and follow right on down. Now, number 7, sometimes, about 50% of the time actually, a mule deer that was jumped up and takes off running will usually stop for a brief moment before going over a crest or ridge and look back to check out the situation. This is the best time to make the first shot count. A word word of warning is needed here. Many older bucks that have lived to see many hunting seasons is less likely to stop and give you the opportunity to bring him down. So you might have to shoot that monster buck on the run. If the deer is just bouncing away at a casual speed, chances are he will stop and look back. If he is flat out running full speed ahead, he probably will not stop and look back. It is when a judgment call as to shoot or not to shoot. So that is a judgment call. It's up to you on there. Now, one trick I've found is that if this happens to you and the deer's going, you keep a low profile, kind of duck down, because he's definitely going to look back. And as he's going forward, you whistle. You let out a loud whistle. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, that deer will stop. It'll get a little confused. He'll look around. And when he stops, that gives you your opportunity to shoot and bring home the meat. So keep that in mind. Now, number 8. When there's a lot of hunting pressure in a certain area, some bucks will leave the area looking for a quieter and more secure refuge. That's true with elk, too. Other bucks, depending on the age, health, and geographical location, will hold tight and hide. A lot of skillful hunters overlook a lot of bucks just because they think that a mule deer buck will not lay quiet and still while less than 30 yards away. An old crafty buck, which has been around many hunting seasons, come and go, has a lot of life-giving skill and patience, much more than the average hunter. So any old crafty buck that's seen a lot of these seasons go by, they know when to hold tight. And I can tell you that for a fact. There's been a lot of times I've walked down a trail, cut through some paths, forest. I'm just looking like, what's that? Oh my goodness, look at the size of that deer. 20 feet away. 20 feet. Kept walking. He didn't get up, but he sure did watch me. He was worried. I wasn't hunting deer anyway. I was just out scouting around. And it's just amazing because the deer will hold still until you're out of the way, and then they'll leave. Or if they're startled, a lot of times they'll jump up and they'll leave. Or if they get scared, they'll go ahead and leave. So it just depends upon the situation. Now, 9, let other hunters do the hunting for you. When a lot of hunters are up high hunting, most of the mule deer will travel down to the low areas to hide. Wait by a game trail the first day of hunting. This trail must be one which is readily used by deer and one which is in the vicinity of heavy hunting pressure from higher elevations. Many large bucks have been killed this way over the years. Keep that in mind. 10. Mule deer will generally bed down during the day in the mountains on the north slopes and benches where there are numerous shady areas. 11. Mule deer will congregate in low river bottoms when pressure is on in the higher elevations. 12. If at all possible, try to hunt during the rut. Mule deer bucks are very reluctant to leave the does. Well, of course, you know the does are the female deer during this special time. Also, the more dominant bucks will be alongside the does. Wherever the does are, the best bucks are. Keep that in mind. I could turn that into a real funny human joke, though, but I'm not going to do that. So we're just talking about mule deer now. So 13, for big bucks with large antlers and good quality meat, hunt where there is an abundant supply of food, cover, water, and seclusion from everyday man. Because the deer don't want to be around man. On the flip side, I've seen some huge deer right next to schools, colleges, and things like this. Of course, you know, they're not being molested or bothered by dogs or people or anything. Because cops are right there watching them, and that's just the way things are. So there's some big deer close to town. The only thing you can do with them is just take pictures. Now, number 14, around 70% of the time, Mule deer will stop running after going over a knoll or ridge, which has put the hunter out of sight. So, you're chasing a deer, takes off running, goes up over a ridge, you think, oh man, he's gone. He's 20 miles away by the time you get up the top of that ridge. Not necessarily so. So when you start to go over that ridge, you have to be not only quiet, but you have to be stealthy where hopefully they won't see you. And if you can just barely creep over there and scout that area out, you may see him only 20 or so yards on the other side. So keep that in mind. 15. Mule deer bucks almost always like to bed high to keep a good view of any potential danger. This is usually with little cover and open areas, next to a scant bush or under a ledge. This will vary with location. 16. Always do more looking, glassing. Use your binoculars with a good spotting scope and or a pair of binoculars. Take your time. You will see more deer. And this is hard. This is kind of hard for me too sometimes. But if you keep your eyes looking through a pair of binoculars and take your time, you're going to see deer. I guarantee you will. But you have to train yourself. You have to discipline yourself to do this, because that technique's never failed. Because you look carefully, you can look closer, and movement. You'll see movement just like the animals see movement. 17. Mule deer are very migratory in mountainous states and terrain. What had hundreds of deer one month might not have any the following month. So make sure you know your hunting area. What did I say earlier? Scout the area. Get to know your area. 18. Many trophy-sized bucks will bed down with the wind at their backs. This way they can smell and hear danger or an intruder. Of course, the intruder is usually man or a bear or a mountain lion coming up there to eat them, one or the other, or anything else approaching from behind. Keep this in mind if you spot an old buck and try to move in close. The direction the buck is laying will indicate wind direction. Let me repeat that. The direction the buck is laying will indicate wind direction right there. Thus, you will be alerted to a possible crosswind and avoid scent detection. That tip alone is worth a fortune. I'll tell you what, when you're already huffed it up over the mountain region and there's the buck and you get a little anxious, you got to pull back a little bit and wait and figure the whole situation out. Better be safe than sorry. 19. Many areas that you suspect that mule deer are bedding down in can be approached in a very slow, zigzagging direction. A very slow, zigzagging direction. For the most part, never try to get closer than 100 yards when walking in a semi-direct path to a bedded buck. If at all possible, give the impression that you are unaware of the buck's presence. I know, you're starting to roll your eyes now, but yes, the mule deer can tell the difference. It really works. Before you know it, the buck is up and starting to trot away. You, by this time, are very close for an easy shot. Number 20. In relatively open country, such as farm, ranch, or orchard land, look for bushy coulees and draws that give food and cover. The large bucks will be in these natural home lots. 21. Depending on hunter pressure, if it is hot weather, hunt high. If the weather is cold, maybe a little snow, hunt low. You've heard that before, haven't you? Number 22. Look for what is known as buck pastures in the mountains and the surrounding area. The secret to finding these little known areas are as follows. Now, the first one here for finding buck pastures. Look for excellent cover, food, and water. This must be located just below a migration trail from the high country leading to the lower elevations. The lower areas are the wintering grounds. Thus, with an abundance of food and cover, the deer will congregate. Okay, number 2 of this method. Use the National Forest Service maps to help locate possible hot spots. 3. Use the topographical maps and locate any routes of decent travel for deer, which will use passes, saddles, small canyons, draws, or gullies. Always consider easily traversed areas. 4. You must scout out the suspected area of concentration far before the actual hunt. You got to get out there and look. You got to scout and know your territory. Always know the area very well. Look for deer sign in areas that have plenty of browsing vegetation. Now, number 5 of this method. If at all possible, consider the area which is less likely to have had recent human presence. So if people haven't been around in an area for a while, people haven't hunted in an area for a while, for whatever reason, chances are there's going to be more game in that area and possibly that large old buck that you're after. That's the truth. Now let's get on with the main secrets and strategy here. Number 23. Try to always use a cover or masking scent when hunting mule deer. Yeah, it does make a difference because you have these little eddies of air and air blowing all over the place, the wind, etc. If some of the scent goes, that's just a skunk, or that's just a fox, or whatever. See, that's going to help protect your human scent, and that's what is important. Number 24. When hunting season opens, mule deer will head for the thickest, ugliest, most impossible cover in the area. Again, that sounds like elk, depending upon where you hunt at, and gladly stay there, as most hunters refuse to work that hard for mule deer. Get out and work that terrible, thick, and ugly area. The deer are there. That's right. A lot of hunters, I'm not going to get on my truck and go work down there. Well, that's too much work. Well, hey, that's what the problem is, let me tell you. Wherever you think the deer aren't, guess what? That's usually where they are because no one else is there. No one's bothering them. That's where they go. Number 25. If you flush a big buck from cover, he usually will not return to that hiding place. For the most part, this is true. Keep in mind that when a lot of humans are tramping all over the woods, deer in general do some strange things. And they do. They repeat past mistakes, which in this case means returning to a former hideaway. So you're constantly on the go, you're constantly on the move, you're looking every place, maybe twice. You'd be surprised. Deer will circle around, come back, watch you leave the area, they'll go right back and bed down again. And I've seen that time and time again. Number 26. A steep, long ridge with plenty of cover will be an excellent spot for a deer drive. One person walks the bottom of the slope, a second driver will hang back a bit and will move in the same direction about halfway up the side of the slope. A stander stations himself far ahead and high on the ridge or crest to intercept game. More standers can be used and all should use concealment. Use more drivers for added success. Number 27. If you spot a deer and you can track it, 3 people can be very effective. One must track the deer directly while the other 2 work ahead and to the sides. The mule deer will sooner or later cross one of the flankers and provide a shot. Sometimes a crafty buck will circle around if it becomes aware that it's being stalked. Also, a buck may hide just ahead of you and wait until you pass by. I talked about that earlier too, didn't I? Keep your eyes and ears open. It gets real exciting, and it does. 28. A normal 3-person drive along a ridge will require no standers. One hunter will move along the crest with the 2 flankers slightly ahead and 100 yards down on each side. This drive is very effective and will cause the deer hiding high on the crest or close by you to move out and usually cut across to one of the flankers. Any deer jumped by the flankers may attempt to head out the opposite direction by way of the crest, thus providing a shot and a face-to-face frenzy for the person working the crest. So if you're working the crest, be prepared. Number 29. When game trails lead from the lower feeding areas to higher bedding grounds, 5 hunters can have a successful drive. The trails must be by way of a pass, saddle, or other upward sloping terrain with fair to excellent cover. 3 of the hunters move from the bottom up and along the center and sides of the natural funnel. The other 2 hunters wait at the top for any deer flushed out. I'm telling you what, a lot of these plans here, I'm telling you, they work. They work very thoroughly. Now, obviously, you have to use hunter safety. You have to keep that in mind. Where you're putting your bullet, which way you're shooting, where all the other people are. So you have to be careful whenever you use drives or methods of this nature. Now, the very last one here, number 30, the lone hunter can make do on a drive if need be. The method here is to let rocks do the driving. Sticks also work. Pick a prominent spot very close and overlooking a prime game trail and cover. Toss rocks, sticks, or what have you into thick bushes, cover, and likely area that contain deer. The noise will scare them out and place them in your sights for a shot. Try to use a little concealment when you're by yourself. If the deer see you, they might not flush out so easy. Many times the deer will hold tight and make things difficult. One more trick that the lone hunter can do is to walk a ridge line with moderate to heavy cover on the sides and toss the rocks or sticks over the edges to likely locations. A lot of deer have been taken by this technique. Well, there you have it. You really have the secrets and strategy to hunting mule deer. Go ahead and re-listen to this 2 or 3 times, get the details down, and take notes if you want. And enjoy, because you're going to be successful. You're going to bring the meat home, and happy hunting always. Thank you.